Ladies and gentlemen, the national anthem of the newly formed Ududuwa Nation.
Comment and share.
Hello, sir. Oh yeah, join was sir. Join one at one life. Join was sir. No, 9 8 o'clock Nigerian time. 6 o'clock Nigerian time.
Yeah, they can look.
I send this one. I send what. Ẹ̀yin èèyàn wa adúpẹ́ lọ́wọ́ Olódùmarè ẹ jẹ́ adúpẹ́ lọ́wọ́ Ọlọ́run bẹ́ẹ̀ Olódùmarè ẹ jẹ́ kí n wò máa wò àwọn dáàdì wa ló ń pè wá ẹ̀ máa wò sáà èèyàn tọ́ ọba Elédùmarè ọba àrà ọba jídára lọ́lọ́run ọba tó ní wá tó mọ̀ wá ọba tó dá wa ó dàbẹ̀ ni pé àti àwọn èèyàn wa ń retí wa ní dédé aago 8 ṣùgbọ́n àti wà ń ta báyìí torí aago 6 la máa ń ṣe ṣùgbọ́n aago 8 náà bóyá màá wá lọ wo orí flyer àti mo send sí ó ṣe kó jẹ́ pé bẹ́ẹ̀ ni ẹ̀rọ yẹn ti wá ẹ̀yin wa tí ẹ bá ń wò wá nílé lórí ètò wa ó náà ni àtún wà ń díẹ̀ ẹ má bínú ọ̀rọ̀ ti bàbá wa wọ́n wà ní ilé pẹ̀lú wa nígbà tí a ó bẹ̀rẹ̀ tètò ní àmọ́ àwọn dáàdì wa náà tún pè wá bẹ́ẹ̀ ni dáàdì ẹ wo mo ní 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. hello sir hello ẹ wo 6 p.m. ẹ lọ wò dáadáa 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. ẹ lọ wò mo ti rí 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. ló wà ń bẹ wákàtí méjì péré náà ni yes sir a máa retí yín sir yes sir kánjú ẹ̀ wá adúpẹ́ fún Elédùmarè ọba àrà ọba tó dẹ́pọ̀n ló mọ ẹ̀mí àti yín ọba tó yẹ́pọ̀n ló dá wa adúpẹ́ lọ́wọ́ yín èèyàn wa tí ẹ̀ ń wò wá ń lé àtẹ̀yìn tó àlùkò pé a tún ti bẹ̀rẹ̀ tó wá fún ti tòní ètò wa tòní gẹ́gẹ́ bí a ṣe máa mú wá fún yín òun náà ni tá a mọ̀ sí ìmọ̀ràn àgbà kí ni tí a ó máa sọ lónìí gbogbo alẹ́ mọ̀ pé bàbá wa wọ́n ń bẹ́ńlé pẹ̀lú wa tí a jọ máa jọ ṣe ètò tòní nítorí pé ètò tòní ètò tí èmi àti yín tá a rí ẹ̀kọ́ kan tàbí òmíì kọ́ ń bẹ̀ ni kí làwọn nǹkan tí a tún máa sọ fún wa lónìí kí làwọn tá a máa fún ọ̀rọ̀ ìgbọ́ láti mọ̀ wípé ọdún ni wá kì í ṣe àìmọ̀ fún olóko lórí ètò wa fún tòní a tún ti gbàràdá Olódùmarè yóò ràn wá lọ́wọ́ lónìí yóò bá wa ṣe torí pòun gangan lọ́ba tí bá ẹ̀dá ṣe ọlọ́run yìí òun náà ni yóò ràn èmi àti gbogbo wa lọ́wọ́ lónìí àdúrà wa yóò sì gbà ní agbára ọlọ́run. Today's program is another episode on ìmọ̀ràn àgbà. That is what we call the Elders' Advice. We'll be discussing about what related to Nigeria. Is it true the law said you can defend yourself? And if law said you can defend yourself, where the law could tell you that you can defend yourself? So today, our daddy in the house, they will help us. Also, we are expecting some lawyers today. We know that we have any àwọn ọmọ Yorùbá tí wọ́n jẹ́ adájọ́ tí wọ́n mọ̀ nípa òfin àti tí òfin sọ tí wọ́n mọ̀ nípa bí òfin ṣe wí tó bá jẹ́ pé lóòótọ́ òun náà ni tí a lè defend ara ọ̀nà wo la lè gbà báwo la ṣe lè ṣe kí ni tá a lè ṣe ọ̀nà wo la lè gbà ṣe òun náà ni tí àwọn bàbá wa tí wọ́n bá wa yànnàná ní òní má máa fi àsìkò yìí má máa fi pé bàbá wa tí mo fẹ́ kí wọ́n bá wa ṣíde tòtò ní ọdún ni wọ́n ò kì í ṣe àìmọ̀ fún olóko ẹ̀yẹn wa ti mọ̀ wọ́n ẹ̀yẹn wa tí ẹ bá rí tí nẹ́tíwọ́ọ̀kì wa tí ó bá ṣe ṣégeṣége adúpẹ́ lọ́wọ́ Ọlọ́run pé láti bí ọdún díẹ̀ òjò ń rọ̀ lọ́wọ́lọ́wọ́ lọ́dọ̀ tí wá ń bì yìí ó wá ṣe é ṣe kí àwọn nẹ́tíwọ́ọ̀kì wa yẹn kí ó máa ní ọwọ́ kan ìjà nínú ọ̀tọ̀ níbi tí a ti ń stream live tẹ́lẹ̀tẹ́lẹ̀ àmọ́ ń gbà tárí wípé ó dàbẹ̀ ni pé nẹ́tíwọ́ọ̀kì yẹn ò fẹ́ gbé òun náà ni a ṣe kúrò ń bẹ̀ tí a ṣe wá sí orí ibi yìí ẹ̀yin wa ẹ bá wa ṣètò yìí torí tí a bá wa ṣe ẹ̀ òun náà nìkan ni ọ̀nà tí àwọn èèyàn tó yẹ kí wọ́n jẹ àǹfààní tí wọ́n yóò fi jẹ àǹfààní ẹ̀ lónìí torí pé ohun tó yẹ kí èmi àti yín ohun tó yẹ kí a jọ wò ni lórí ètò tòní gbogbo wa pátápátá la jọ ní ipa pàtàkì eléyìí tí a kó lọ́jọ́ tòní mo sì mọ̀ pé Olódùmarè ọba lágbára yóò ràn wá lọ́wọ́ yóò jẹ́ kárí ètò tòní yóò jẹ́ kí a rí ṣe ní ayọ̀ àti àlàáfíà Olódùmarè ọba òun náà ni a fi ọpẹ́ àti ìyìn wa fún lónìí torí pé òun nìkan ni ọba tó mọ ọpẹ́ tó lè gba ìyẹn dá lẹ́yìn bàtà ti dúpẹ́ fún Ọlọ́run yìí a dúpẹ́ fún ọba dẹ́dà torí pé òun nìkan lọ́ba tó dá èmi àti yín òun náà ló mọ̀ wá òun náà nìkan lọ́ba tó sì lè ṣe àánú fún wa ní báyìí láṣẹ Olódùmarè bàbá wa àwọn ni wọ́n máa bá wa yànnàná ètò títò ní nítorí pé àwọn òun náà ni a ó jọ máa jọ ṣe ètò tòní mo sì gbà pé lágbára Ọlọ́run Olódùmarè yóò fún wa ṣe dáadáa yóò fún wa ṣe ní dídí yóò fún wa ṣe ní tòótọ́ yóò fún wa ṣe ní ti dáadáa mo sì gbà pé lágbára Ọlọ́run àdúrà wa yóò gbà ní agbára Ọlọ́run ẹ̀yin wa ẹ má bínú o torí pé àwọn nẹ́tíwọ́ọ̀kì wa yẹn yóò máa lọ yóò máa bọ̀ bí a ṣe ń ṣe yìí a fẹ́ gbé bàbá wa wá sí ojú agbègbè wa ntòkùtà fẹ́ ṣe nìyẹn ṣùgbọ́n nẹ́tíwọ́ọ̀kì wa yìí ó dàbẹ̀ ni pé òjò tó ń rọ̀ lọ́wọ́lọ́wọ́ báyìí ó jẹ́ kí nẹ́tíwọ́ọ̀kì yẹn ó jẹ́ kí ó máa ṣe ṣégeṣége ṣùgbọ́n ní agbára Ọlọ́run Olódùmarè yóò fún wa ṣe lágbára Ọlọ́run torí a rò pé òjò yóò dá ṣáájú kí a tó bẹ̀rẹ̀ ní ṣùgbọ́n òjò ńkọ́ kò dáwọ́ dúró ó ń dandan lá pé òun fẹ́ rọ títí tẹnu ṣùgbọ́n ní agbára Ọlọ́run àárí ètò tòní tàbárí internet connection banding not stable àwọn tí à ń face lọ́wọ́lọ́wọ́ ń sìn ọ̀nà nìyẹn ṣùgbọ́n láṣẹ Olódùmarè a máa ṣe ní díẹ̀díẹ̀ Ọlọ́run yóò sì mọ̀ fún wa ṣe lágbára Ọlọ́run bàbá wa tí wọ́n ń bẹ nílé pẹ̀lú wa àwọn náà ní Báṣẹ̀gùn bàbá wa Olúṣọlá Òní àwọn wà bẹ́ẹ̀ náà ni àwọn Dr. John Ògúnrin ọlá àwọn náà ń bẹ nílé pẹ̀lú wa ní ọjọ́ tòní àwọn bàbá wa yìí ọ̀nà ni àjọ máa jọ ṣètò ní máa fi àsìkò pé bàbá wa Báṣẹ̀gùn pé kán bá wa kí àwọn ará ilé bàbá ẹ bá mi kí àwọn ará ilé.
Ẹ káalẹ́ o nílé lóko àti ní òkè àjò. Welcome again to another one of these programs which is meant to enthuse us, lead us into various discussions. Today we are going to talk about defending ourselves. Yoruba man, defend yourself. Nigeria's law says you can defend yourself. I need to start by saying that I am actually not a lawyer. I'm not a practicing lawyer, but I have qualification in law, and I have used my qualification in law in a variety of ways. I used to sit on the General Medical Council, Bongboy, and I used to sit on Department of Works and Pension Tribunals. Hello, can anybody hear me?
Hello, sir.
We are hearing you.
Okay,
I'm going clearly, sir. Bye.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Ẹ jẹ́ kí n fi àsìkò yìí kí n tún fi gbé bàbá wa torí bàbá wa John Ogunrinola ẹ bá mi kí àwọn ará ilé bàbá torí àwọn náà wọ́n ti gbóyin last time wọ́n ní ṣé mo tún gbé yín bọ̀ lónìí mo níbẹ̀ ni mo ní bàbá wa ń bọ̀ wọ́n ní bàbá tó sọ ẹ bá mi kí àwọn ará ilé sàdádì. Okay. Ẹ ti mute sir, ẹ ti mute ara yín sir, ẹ ti mute ara yín.
Ẹ káalẹ́ o, ẹ káàsán o, ẹ káàárọ̀ o ní gbogbo ibikíbi tí a bá wà, àwa ọmọ odù tó bí wà, àwa ọmọ Oòduà. Prógrámù yìí àwọn ọ̀gá wa Dr. Oni àti Mr. Omoboriowo ni wọ́n gbé kalẹ̀ ipe kí àwa àgbààgbà ká lè máa foríkorí ká lè máa fi inú kanú ní gbogbo ìgbà láti lè mọ báwo ni ìlú wa báwo ló ṣe ń lọ báwo làwa náà ṣe ń lọ nítorí pé tá a bá mọ bí ìlú wa ṣe ń lọ àwa náà à ní mọ báwo làwa náà ṣe fẹ́ lọ. Ẹ wá jọ nítorí Ọlọ́run èmi máa bẹ̀ yín ní orúkọ Ọlọ́run pé prógrámù yìí kì í ṣe prógrámù eléèbú. Let everyone says his or her own opinion. Nǹkan tó ní tó bá wà nínú oníkálukú ni kóníkálukú ó sọ. Kì í ṣe prógrámù tá a lè máa prógrámù tó jẹ́ pé a lè máa sọ èébú síra wa àbí ká máa sọ̀rọ̀ àlùfàǹṣá síra wa ẹjọ́ tó Ọlọ́run àgbàlagbà ní gbogbo wa ẹ jẹ́ ká jáwọ́ nínú yẹn Oòduà gbè wá.
Ẹ ṣeun dáadé Oòduà gbè wá kò ní gbé ọ̀dàlẹ̀. Ẹ jẹ́ kí n padà sí ọ̀dọ̀ bàbá wa Olúṣọlá Òní pé kí wọ́n bá wa ṣíde ètò ọ̀hún ní pẹ̀rẹ̀wò. Mo fi àsìkò yìí náà mo fi kí àwọn dáàdì wa tí wọ́n tún bẹ́nu lé pẹ̀lú wa ìyẹn Mr. Chad àfihàrí ni ṣé mo gbà á ṣé mo gbà sà.
Ẹ ṣé àdúpẹ́.
Ẹ ṣé gan ni àdúpẹ́ lọ́wọ́ yín. Náà bàbá wa Olúṣọlá Òní, the topic said Yoruba man, you can defend yourself. Nigerian law says so. Please, we want you to elaborate it, because if it is true Nigerian law says so, why those who are ready to defend themselves are still facing some problems with the Nigerian police or Nigerian armed forces that it is not allowed? Thank you, sir.
Okay. Thank you very much. A lot of things, so I've had to modify a little bit because earlier today, about an hour or so ago, that Gani Adams wrote to the governor of Osun State, in which he was saying that he was asking for permission for him to be able to clear the Yoruba forest of Fulani pests. Now, many of us may not know who Gani Adams is, Gani Adams of Arigidi Akoko, I think that's how it is said, is the 15th Ààrẹ Ọ̀nà Kakanfò of Yoruba land. In his letter, he said he was ordained by the late Oba Adeyemi III, the Aláàfin of Ọ̀yọ́. Most people don't also know the illustrious people who have been in recent times the Ààrẹ Ọ̀nà Kakanfò of Yoruba land. Akintola, who was from Ògbómọ̀ṣọ́, the premier of the Western region, was the 13th Ààrẹ Ọ̀nà Kakanfò. MK Abiola, who was a president-elect of Nigeria before they annulled the election, was the 14th Ààrẹ Ọ̀nà Kakanfò. It's just company. In addition to the letter that somebody forwarded to me today, Gani Adams also gave an interview last week, which was widely circulated online. He said, from what I saw of that interview, that he was prevented from pursuing the Fulani pest commissioning atrocities in Yoruba land because he needed the permission of either the Oba, Aláàfin of Ọ̀yọ́, or Obas in general, or the permission of the governors of the Yoruba states, because the governors were now above the Oba in the political order. He said, if they gave him the permission, he will clear the forests of the Fulani pests, Fulani savages within 6 months. That's what he said. Now, this set me thinking, why does the Ààrẹ require instructions from anybody? Number one, the Ààrẹ, most people don't realize the position of the Ààrẹ. The Ààrẹ is the only official leader in Yoruba land who has Yoruba-wide mandate. His mandate is not restricted to one part of Yoruba land. He has a mandate all over the entire Yoruba land, and he's the only Yoruba official who has that wide mandate, that Yoruba-wide mandate. From our culture, from Yoruba culture, the Ààrẹ was both a field marshal, that is, he was the highest Yoruba officer on the battlefield. He was also the military viceroy. That is, the Ààrẹ Ọ̀nà Kakanfò was the commander-in-chief of all Yoruba forces. Commander-in-chief. For example, if we use the example of Nigeria, the head of state, Tinubu, is the commander-in-chief of the armed forces. In Yoruba culture, the Ààrẹ Ọ̀nà Kakanfò is the commander-in-chief. He doesn't wait for anybody to give him instructions or to tell him what to do because he is the commander-in-chief. That's our tradition. Now, what this role, the Ààrẹ role does is this. It imposed two duties on Gani Adams, two duties. The first duty is the duty of care. So Gani Adams owes every single Yoruba man, having accepted the post of Ààrẹ Ọ̀nà Kakanfò, he has a duty of care to every single Yoruba man. He also has the duty to act. That is, he has a duty to act to protect every single Yoruba man. That duty, incidentally, is recognized under Section 288 of the Nigerian Criminal Code. I will read it. It says, in any case in which it is lawful for any person to use force in any degree for the purpose of defending himself against an assault, it is lawful for any other person acting with force for the purposes of defending such first mentioned person. In other words, if I was being subjected to an attack by the Fulani savages, the law recognizes that I could be assisted by Gani Adams. It's interesting, if you then go to Section 305 of the Nigerian Criminal Code, this is what the code says, because it says, if you fail to perform the duty to act, as we said, this was condemned by Section 305. This is what do any act, the omission to do which is or may be dangerous to human life or health. It is his duty to do that act, and he is held or health of any person by reason of any omission to perform that duty. In other words, whether Gani Adam likes it or not, he has already undertaken to act by accepting the post of Ààrẹ Ọ̀nà Kakanfò. And therefore, Section 305 is saying that he has to perform that duty. That if he didn't perform that duty, that would be dereliction. So, from the point of view of the letter that Gani Adams wrote to the governor of Osun State and the interview that he gave, that he required permission in order to clear the Yoruba forest of Fulani. It doesn't require that permission at all. Yoruba wide official. And interestingly, that is why the Ààrẹ never comes from Oyo itself. Although the Aláàfin of Oyo confirms or confers rather the Ààrẹ position on an individual, that individual never comes from Oyo because it is a Yoruba wide post. It's almost a parallel. It's like you have the political and the two are separate, so that the Ààrẹ Ọ̀nà Kakanfò is the commander-in-chief. He's not under anybody. Now, what I suspect is happening is this: that Gani Adams is thinking like everyone else, like all of us are thinking, that somehow Nigeria's law prevents us from fighting back against the flood. Well, if we did something, it would be against the law. But this is not so. This is not so. This is not so at all. Because Nigeria has a self-defense law. Firstly, number one, Nigeria's constitution guaranteed self-defense as a fundamental right. This is what Section 33(2) said. It says this: a person shall not be regarded as having been deprived of his life in contravention of this section if he dies as a result of the use to such extent and in such circumstances as are permitted by the law of such force as is reasonably necessary. A, for the defense of any person from unlawful violence or for the defense of property. In other words, Section 33 of Nigerian Constitution says you can defend yourself and you can defend your property against anybody who violates it. Number two, Nigeria's law itself, apart from the constitution that we are talking about just now, permits the Yoruba man to use force, not just to go there and remonstrate and say, don't destroy my farm. No, no. The law permits the Yoruba man to use force to protect or prevent harm to himself, to his family, and to his property. He is entitled by law to defend himself and to defend his family and to defend his property. This is what the Penal Code, Nigeria's Penal Code, Section 59 says. This is what it says. It says, nothing is an offense which is done in the lawful exercise of private defense. That is, anything that you do to defend yourself is lawful. It's not an offense. Criminal Code, Section 286, this is what it says. It says, when a person is unlawfully assaulted and has not provoked the assault, it is lawful for him to use such force to the assailant as is reasonably necessary to make
recording in progress
against the assault. In other words, Section 286 of the Penal Code is telling you that if the Fulani comes onto your farm or whatever, you are entitled to use whatever force is necessary to make effectual defense of yourself, of your family, of your property. The third thing that I want to point out is this. Nigeria's law permits the Yoruba farmer to use force to defend his farmland because his farmland is his property. Let me say that again. The farmland is the farmer's property. Nigeria's law permits him to use force to defend his farm. So he doesn't have to go and be saying, Joe, don't use your cattle to destroy my to eat all my cassava or eat all my corn. The law permits him to use force to defend himself, to defend his farmland, not just himself, to defend his farmland.
Wow, ó dàbẹ̀ ni wípé nẹ́tíwọ́ọ̀kì ti gbé àwọn dáàdì jáde ẹ̀yìn tí ó dàbẹ̀ nẹ́tíwọ́ọ̀kì ti gbé wọn jáde ẹ̀yìn wa tí ẹ̀ ń wò wá nílé mo rò pé ẹ̀ ń bá wa gbádùn ètò yìí dáàdì wa Charles àwọn ni wọ́n ń bẹ ní ojú mo wà bóyá àwọn náà dẹ̀ ní contribution sí tí bàbá ń sọ yẹn kó tó di pé wọlé padà. Hello sir.
Yes,
ṣé any contribution sí tí wọ́n ń sọ kó tó di pé wọlé padà network ti gbé wọn jáde. Hello sir, ṣé ń gbọ́ mi sir?
I hope everybody's heard me.
Yeah, à ń gbọ́ kẹ̀ ti padà à ń gbọ́ yín sir. Mo rí pé network yẹn ti ọkọ̀ gbé ń jáde ó yá
Yeah, I can hear you.
Pẹ̀lú yín sir.
Okay. The third point that I want to make, which I started to make when everything just went off, was that Nigeria's law permits the Yoruba farmer to use force to defend his farmland because his farmland is his property. So it's not just your house. Your farmland is your property, and this is what Section 81 of the Nigerian Criminal Code, this is what it says. It says any person who in a manner likely to cause a breach of the peace enters on farmland which is in actual peaceful possession of another is guilty of a misdemeanor and is liable to imprisonment. So the Fulani herder that comes onto your farm to use to feed his cattle is guilty of an offense under the Criminal Code Section 81. So will then be protecting somebody who is destroying your farm. It's against the law of Nigeria, because Section 81 of the Nigerian Criminal Code is anything to guilty of a misdemeanor and is liable to imprisonment for 1 year. And what does the Criminal Code say, 292 say? It says this, and I will read it. I'm sorry that I'm having to read these things because I think they're better read rather than me paraphrasing them. This is what Section 292 said. It says, it is lawful for a person who is in peaceable possession of any land, structure, vessel or place, or who is a structure, vessel or place.
Ó dàbẹ̀ ni pé nẹ́tíwọ́ọ̀kì yẹn ń ṣiṣẹ́ èdè tó yà àgbọ̀dádínà dáadáa àgbọ̀ wọn dáadáa ní ó dàbẹ̀ pé nẹ́tíwọ́ọ̀kì tọ̀dọ̀ wọn yẹn náà.
Entry.
Hello Saradi.
Can you not hear me anymore?
Yeah, a tún ti ń gbọ́ yín sìn, a tún ti ń gbọ́ yín báyìí.
Okay, let me start again.
Yes. Ó dẹ̀ ń pé nẹ́tíwọ́ọ̀kì ọ̀dọ̀ yín àti nẹ́tíwọ́ọ̀kì bí lónìí ó dẹ̀ ń pé ó dé bákan bákan.
Let me read that. This is Criminal Code.
We are programming.
Oh dear. Section 292. This is what it says. It is lawful for a person who is in peaceable possession of any land, structure, vessel or place, or who is entitled to the control or management of any land, structure, vessel or place, and for any person acting by his authority to use force as is reasonably necessary in order to prevent any person from wrongfully entering upon such land. In other words, and in order to remove
networking yẹn ó tún ti lọ.
Go for possession of any land, who is entitled to the control or management of any land, and for any person acting by his authority to use force in order to remove therefrom any person who conducts himself in a disorder does not do him harm. So that's 290. The other thing that we need to know, and which we forget sometimes, is that cast without the permission of the farmer is unlawful. This is what Mr. Justice Johnson said in 1969 in the Abeokuta High Court. This is what he said. He said, "I do not accept the contention of defendants that a custom exists which imposes an obligation on the owner of farm to fence his farm whilst the owner of cattle allows the cattle to wander around like pests and cause damage. Such a custom, if it exists, is unreasonable. And I hold that it is repugnant to natural justice, equity, or good conscience, and therefore unenforceable. In that it is highly unreasonable to impose the burden of fencing a farm on the farmer without the corresponding obligation on the cattle owner to fence in his cattle. Sequence to that, I banned open grazing, for it is inimical to peace and tranquility, and the cattle owners must fence or ranch the animals for peace to reign in this community." In other words, according to the law of the land, this is common law, says cattle, it is unreasonable to expect the farmer to fence his farm, but the person who is walking his cattle all over the place doesn't need to need any control at all. His cattle can just go onto somebody else's farm and destroy it. And they say it is unreasonable. It is inimical to peace. It is an unreasonable proposition. So the first point that I want to make before I make my conclusion is this. The Nigerian law permits the Yoruba man to use lethal force, not just any force. Remember, we've been talking about force. It allows the Yoruba man to use lethal force against a felon, such as the Fulani herdsman killer, who used or was intending to use lethal force himself to commit a crime. In other words, if somebody is using lethal force to cause damage to your farm, and if you then remonstrate with him, he uses the lethal force against you, you are entitled to use lethal force against him. This is the judgment of judgment in a case called Ita versus the secretary versus the state. This was in 2013. This is what the court said. The court said, a man is justified in using against an assailant a proportionate amount of force in defense of himself or other person who is under a duty to defend, where he considers his life or such person's life to be in danger. In other words, if you perceive that the assailant is going to kill somebody or kill you, you are entitled to use lethal force against him. The Fulani herdsmen killers, they carry arms to commit their atrocities in contravention of Nigerian law. The Firearms Act 1990, this is what it says. It says, no person shall have in his possession or under his control any firearm or ammunition except such person that has a license from the President or from the Inspector General of Police. In other words, the Fulani who are openly carrying AK-47, they are doing so illegally. They're doing, unless they can show that they have a fire license. This is what Criminal Code Section 80 says. This is what it says. It says, any person who goes armed in public without lawful occasion in such a manner as to cause terror to any person is guilty of a misdemeanor and is liable to imprisonment for 2 years. In other words, it is against the law for the Fulani to be carrying AK-47 in public view. So I'm now coming to conclusion of my talk, because I want to allow as much discussion as possible before I leave.
Yeah, Eshigani Daddy.
And I'm going to refer to the speech.
Continue, sir, because I'm at home.
Can they hear me?
Any? Sir?
Can anybody hear me at all?
Yes, we are hearing you, sir. But from the inside, I just received a text message from my WhatsApp now that the network is not allowing them to hear us very well. I know that there is a rainy year for the past 2 days now that we may have a low network. So program when I continue, but will be a part 1, and which is on Thursday. There will be a part 2 again that we will do concerning this program, because people wanted to hear you, and then they understand what law say. Now I want you to learn.
That's fine.
We have people in the house, if they have contribution, but if they don't have contribution, to have some